Hi, I'm Barb Goldman, and I specialize in high profile transition. When things change at work, you really have two options. You can stay there and accept the risk, or you can plan an exit. That's where I come in. If you're looking for an exit, I'm the one to work with. My background. Very quickly, I've had 20 years in executive search. I own high touch recruiting. My background is in bio, healthcare, pharmaceutical, IT, engineering, chemical, transportation, manufacturing, you name it, I've done it. Within all of those industries, in the executive levels, I also coach recruiters and recruiting firms to use the techniques that I've created. I've had radio and TV shows. In the 90s, I took recruiting to radio and TV throughout Ohio and Pennsylvania. I created in-house recruiting programs for organizations. I've written 2 books on recruiting. They're pretty boring unless you're a recruiter. So I know how this works, and I know what I'm doing. Now, about 7 years ago, after all of this recruiting experience, I decided to work on the flip side. After looking at everything and understanding this business, what was lacking is someone who would work directly with professionals to be on their side. Recruiters work for employers. They may feel like they're working with you, but they have an agenda, and that agenda is the commission. If they work inside the company, their agenda is the company. Get someone for less money. Also, it's always about their win. They need to win. It's not about your win. So I flipped it around. This is what I knew was needed in the market. And for the past 7 years, I've been right. I work for professionals. My agenda: help you land the interview and get a job offer. Avoid all those landmines when you're interviewing. And my win is when you win. Let's look at the basics that you need in order to compete out there. First of all, the competition is stiff. In order to compete, you're going to need a great resume. You're going to have to know how to interview, and you better have some good messaging. So this is the basics. The resume. You need a resume that's going to beat the competition. You may be applying for jobs where there's hundreds of applicants. Your resume needs to be unique. It needs to speak to the recruiter. The resume also has to be able to sell you and sell your experience to the C-suite. You need to know how to follow up, use a strong professional follow-up. You need to know how to tap into your power base. Powerful messaging. In order to compete, boy, do you need powerful messaging and an executive profile. When you're interviewing, there's a lot of interviews you're going to go through, and it's difficult. It seems like companies are putting candidates, especially higher level candidates, higher profile candidates, through an enormous amount of interviews. Very inclusive. With the screening, the technical interviews, the group, you'd interview with your peers, your team members, interview with the selection committee, plus the executives, plus human resources, and anyone else that they can come up with. You're going to interview with them. I've seen interviews scheduled with consultants. I have seen a lot, and they're afraid to hire. So you need to be able to sell yourself and really handle these interviews well. You need basic messaging. In order to compete, your messaging needs to be sound. I show you 3 elevator pitches. You need 3 different elevator speeches for the situation. We work on stories for the tough questions, behavioral interviewing, situational interviewing, answering the zingers, telling your accomplishment stories, your near miss stories. When it went wrong, you need to be able to explain these things. What are your reactions to difficult situations? How do your values shine through? And that's what these interviews are going to be about. Now, beyond the basics. The basics, a resume, an executive profile, your messaging, that's all basic. Now, in order to master the competition, the rest of it is negotiation, negotiation, negotiation. When you're exiting and you're high profile, when you're exiting and you're in a leadership position, an executive position, this is complicated. There are negotiations on the way out, and there are negotiations for your new job. Negotiations on the way out, your exit negotiations. You need to do some kind of severance negotiation. If it wasn't in your contract when you were hired and you're being terminated, you better do it. What about the equity? Let's negotiate that. Negotiate bonuses that you're supposed to receive. Negotiate your health care and other perks that you may need for a while during this transition. Negotiate this succession plan. Who's going to take your job? How is that going to work? And you need to look at non-compete considerations before you accept a new job. Now, on the entrance, you'll be negotiating compensation. Negotiate a possible exit plan in case things go wrong. Negotiate your equity, your sign-on, your start date. Now, here's a big one. Role negotiation. You are going to negotiate that role. Your housing, transportation, relocation, family considerations. Are your children in special schools? And is this a complicated relocation? All of these things are negotiable. Your role. This is a big one. When you negotiate, when you're taking your job, you're negotiating your role, your scope, your duties. Who are you going to report to? You can negotiate that. Negotiate your projects. Negotiate where you will be on-site or hybrid. Negotiate the role, and you're going to find, and I do this a lot with executives, after you get the role, you're going to constantly be negotiating throughout your career what you're going to be doing. And this is a skill that very few people have. Executives are good at this. But this role negotiation is something that you must absolutely do when you're interviewing. Now, if you are going to exit within the next 6 months, let's talk. I'd like you to talk with me. We'll have a free strategy session. It'll go anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what your needs are. If your job's at risk, let's talk. If you're safe, yet underutilized, you're miserable, you need a new job, there's a new opportunity out there for you somewhere, let's talk. I look forward to talking to you. Just click next to me and let's schedule a session. Talk to you soon.